Okay, we're rolling. Brendan Daniel, welcome to the Terrain Theory podcast.
Good to be here. Good to be
Yeah,
here.
you're just telling us you did a cold plunge before hopping
Yes.
on here.
Yeah, I was really nervous for Steve's podcast, so I had to prepare myself for the nerves this time.
And
Always
has it worked?
Oh yeah. I definitely anytime I have to do anything like super hard, cold plunge is the way to go. I feel like it's like entering into a portal. Like I got to imagine that's got to not be a very comfortable feeling, but when you get out, it's always like, "Oh yeah, I did it."
You're glad you did it. Do you find yourself looking forward already to the next one?
Podcast or cold plunge?
That's a great clarifying question. Let's start with let's
'Cause
start
yes,
with
both.
yeah. Let's start the cold plunge. Yeah, cold plunges.
Yeah, cold plunges. I mean, it's one of those things. Like I didn't add it to my non-negotiables because it all it is a negotiation. All it is like, am I going to do it? Am I going to go out there?
Right.
Am I going to stay in for 2 minutes? Am I going to stay in for 30? Am I, like, so? But it's every time, 10 times out of 10, it's like there's no regrets. I'm always happy that I did it. It always is a better outcome. It's the
So
outcome I expect.
right? No one ever regrets having done a cold plunge.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely true. Where do you go? Is it like walking distance from where you live?
I could, but there's a specific spot that's like about a 15-minute drive from my house in Townsend. It was a lot closer when I was in Ashburnham, but it's called Trap Falls, and it's awesome. It's like I forget the exact river it is, but it's friggin' badass. There's like 3 falls that fall down, and you can go underneath the falls. There's like a deep pocket underneath the falls, and there's also a bridge. And where we usually go, my buddy Dan and I, is like right under the bridge. Been trying to get other people to go with us for years, but it's just me and Dan.
Right
Well, it
on.
was just me though.
The cold plunge in the river, I think, is the bravest because there's no hiding.
Yeah,
The moving water whips away the warmth, and you are just laid bare for the duration.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. The more I hear about cold plunge, the science of it too, I realize like that is the way to go. It's moving water, it's living water, and it's just loud and experiential. Like the cold shower is harder because it's just there's nothing going on. It's just your shower.
Right.
You're just like, what the hell am I doing? But when you go to the river, it's alive. It feels better.
Down to the river to pray. Well, let's find out. Let's test if the cold plunge has truly prepared you, Brendan, for this podcast appearance. And as I would have said in the intro, the listener who have been with us for a while will recognize your name, and certainly one of the tunes that we're going to play from the Pork Fest episode. This would have been last year's Porcupine Festival up here in Lancaster, New Hampshire, where your path first crossed with Mikey, and he recorded you there live, and we're gonna talk about that album, and we're gonna play a couple songs from that one as well as another one that's recently released. But first, let's find out a little bit about you and how you ended up where you are as a musician.
Yeah. Okay. I was born in Ayer, Massachusetts, and raised there. I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. My oldest brother Luke, my sister Amy, and my I'm sorry, 4. And my brother Russ and me. And we were raised, it's like a big Irish family, so we had tons of cousins on both sides. We were Christian. We were raised Christian. We went to a Church of God, which was like not necessarily how my cousins were, or like a lot of other people, obviously in high school and stuff. So I feel like maybe that gave me a little bit of like a preparation for people just kind of rejecting your outlook or whatever. Not that I'm like, I don't really subscribe to those types of beliefs anymore, like dogmatically, but I think there's a lot of nuggets there spiritually. But So yeah, then my oldest brother Luke got married at 18 because that was kind of the way it went. Like if if you wanted to have sex, you got to get married. But thank God he did, because I got really cool nieces and nephews and stuff. So he had his first daughter um, back in 2005. So I was pretty young, and but he was the youth pastor. He was like a cool youth pastor, and a lot of people would hang out at like the church that weren't necessarily like church people. I always felt like my brother Luke had like a really good handle on like the whole quote unquote Christian thing. Like he really appealed to the Christ nature of like reaching out to like people who seem to be rejected by society. So when you'd pull into youth group when I was like a kid, I'd be like skateboarding in the parking lot. There would be like goth people like smoking weed. Like it wasn't, like I think my brother Luke got reprimanded by our pastor one time. You know what I mean? But that always had a big impact on me. I was 8 years old when 9/11 happened, and I was I think I was out of school because I had a dentist appointment. So it's funny listening back to your previous episode with Melissa Sell.
Yeah.
Such a good episode, by the way. Huge credit to her and her work. That was awesome. But yeah, so maybe there's some teeth trauma there.
Right.
Because I've always had insecurities about my teeth. Skateboarding, I banged up my teeth and messed up my teeth a lot. But yeah, that was crazy. But that definitely wasn't my red pill moment. I would hang out with like my buddy Nick Cassenzi and Alex Cutting and stuff, who we met from the church, and I kind of just got into camping like all on my own volition. Just kind of was like, I just want to. I think maybe I was like into like Hatchet by Gary Paulson or something like that, and me and my cousin Robbie would go camping all the time, and our friend Jay and then like our buddy Will and Isaiah. We would just all of a sudden we would just be camping. Like we weren't even really drinking or smoking at that point. And then when I'm trying to think of like when it was, my friend Nina, who used to sit behind me in class and draw like pictures of me, like doodling or whatever. She killed herself when she was 16. I think that was like the first moment of like, holy crap. Because my friend Matt, who was a really close friend, died when I was 11. So I always had like I knew that life was, like fragile from an early age, I'd say. And then the next year after my buddy Matt died, when I was only 11. The next year when I was 12, our close friend Kelly was like murdered by some kids in our town. It was all like so I grew up. My town's not necessarily like the poorest, but we've had a lot of like weird young deaths. I don't know. And maybe that's inspired a lot of my music, just knowing like that life doesn't, last that long, and that you gotta live your life or whatever. I kind of took that into, in high school, I did cross country, and I don't remember when it was, but I started smoking a lot of weed in high school, and I loved cross country. I loved camping. That was probably like my first cold plunging was, the cross country, doing the polar plunge.
Mm-hmm.
And, so yeah, I loved all that shit. And camping led to playing the harmonica, jamming, partying. I had friends who lived out in Belchertown. We would party. I would, just be the jam guy. And in, I think it was 2012 was, and like before all that, I did a lot of other stuff. I like lived in Vermont for a while with some friends. In 2009, I met my best friend, Derek Bacon, who introduced me to like a lot of different new things like festivals and a lot of psychedelic drugs that I experimented with before I graduated high school. I didn't finish high school. I ended up going to night school because I completely rejected authority, and the mainstream education system just didn't make any sense to me. And I asked a lot of questions, and I didn't get a lot of answers. So I was like a Burning Man, by the time that I think my regular class was graduating, or maybe I can't remember, or maybe I was opening for Aaron Lewis or something like that. But so and before that, I would take a lot of road trips with my brother. My brother Luke he's basically probably the biggest influence on my life. I think is my brother Luke, and his friend Noah Coleman was like, I remember even as a kid in church, even at church, which is like and I was really young, but he was like a freight hopper vagabond. He made like jewelry out of like bones and like animal bones and like, and he smelled, he had BO like pretty bad because he like, spent a lot of time traveling around, but just the way that the church I would, as a kid, notice that they would talk about him, and even though he was a believer, he was actually, in my opinion, had more faith than a lot of people in the church, but they didn't seem to accept him and would go out of their way to try and kind of like make him look bad. Mm. And so I think I always appealed to that kind of not accepting authority, but really valuing the spirit of things. And I just think that they had it all wrong, and he had it more right than they did. But my brother Luke and my brother Russ and I would go on road trips and stuff. Usually after my brother Luke would read like a Mark Twain book or something, he'd be like, let's go see the Mississippi River or whatever. There was this band called Brave Saint Saturn. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, Reese Roper, but they're pretty cool. We just like went on a road trip just to like listen to all of their albums. And there was something cool about like traveling with my brothers that obviously panned over into Town Meeting, which I think I wasn't there when Luke and Russ came up with the name, but I know that shortly after they did, I think at that point, we were like meeting at my brother Luke's house, who had 3 or 4 kids at the time. I think he had Selah, Hosea, and I think maybe Gracie at that point. I don't even think Natalie was born yet. He has 5 kids now. And my sister has 2. And so I got plenty of nieces and nephews. But I think the whole idea of Town Meeting was that the original Hebrew name of church, and I'm probably getting this wrong, was supposed to mean something more along the lines of like town meeting, like getting everybody together. You have food, you have music, and you figure out like, where's the shit gonna go? How are we gonna deal with the dead donkey in the road? Like whatever, you talk. It's like the nature of community, and I liked that a lot. That appealed to me a lot. But I've always been kind of just off in the breeze kind of a guy. So when I was in the band, I think officially in the band 2012, but still really traveling around a lot. Huge into like Ram Dass and that whole trip, and lived on the road for a while, like living out of my van, living out of other people's vans, just being homeless. And yeah, I don't know, man. It's crazy to talk about your own story. I mean, I got sucked into the whole Occupy Boston thing. I remember the Dakota Access Pipeline had a really big impact on me. So, and my friend Derek showed me that movie Zeitgeist, like way back in 2009, or 2010 or whatever. So, and this movie Thrive that Mike, I was talking to you about when I played at Egremont, the Foster Gamble movie. I remember like getting that movie and just like wanting, me and my buddy Doug West, who was an incredible guitar player and a huge musical influence on me, even aside from Town Meeting. Like me, my buddy Derek, my buddy DJ, my buddy Doug, and Dakota, DDDDDD, all lived in an apartment in Shirley when I was 17. So I moved out of my parents' house, before I was 18, and I was living with them. And access to just like all of the things that people my age didn't have access to. So made a pretty good, living. and I'll just keep that there. uh, but Doug, who introduced me to a lot of the, not only like Ram Dass and the whole Tibetan Book of the Dead, and he was huge into yoga. He was this Korean dude, and he was super, super smart. I forget what I was going with that, but yeah, we traveled around. I lived with him for a while. I ended up in Bainbridge Island with my cousin, visiting my buddy Isaiah, who lived out there. So in the band, but always kind of just traveling around and just doing random shit. Really lived in Portland in 2015. Been doing every odd job, blue collar job you can think of. I worked at a property management company when I was in Maine, but always been huge into rock climbing and disc golf and things that keep you going and like moving. My buddy John DeFrancisco, who got me into, I think it was like shortly after he found out I smoked weed, it was like, we would just hang out at his house and he would show me like Mystery Science Theater 3000. And like, I didn't grow up with TV. So I always knew about movies, like tons of movies, old movies. I think that maybe has something to do with writing, later on in life. But I was writing with Town Meeting, just kind of writing about my experiences traveling and just with God or whatever spirit, going through these journeys, both physically and spiritually. And yeah, and I've had a lot of young people around in my close sphere. I've experienced the loss of a lot of young people. My friend Armin passed away, overdosed. My friend Jake died of leukemia when I was living in Vermont. He was a very, very close friend. We lived together. He has a festival called Greg Fest that we still go to in Vermont with all my friends that knew him. He was incredibly talented too. So I've just been surrounded by really talented people, really spiritual people. And I don't know, a lot of just what has been the mainstream's never really sat right with me, I guess. So writing is a way, has been the best way to express that. And then through the success of Town Meeting, it kind of validated it in society, seeing that like my writing can actually create revenue and finances. And it was great, but I never really did any of the managerial stuff because I was always just kind of, off in the wind, off in the breeze. I lived in a lake house on the, and I had a drug problem. I did a lot of coke as the success of the band went up. And then COVID or the pandemic or whatever happened, and all of that fell apart. Everything. 2019, I think I was still working at the rock gym. I had left the rock gym, and I met my girlfriend, Annalise. Thank God I did before COVID, because COVID just came and took everything away. And that was crazy to experience, to have all that kind of pulled out from underneath your feet. And it was
did COVID shape? So obviously, and Mike has talked about this, and obviously has lived this experience that COVID ended playing out as a band. There were no performances, but did it also impact the band itself, like the band dynamic, the relationships among the band?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah,
I have to give credit to my brothers, obviously, because I don't ever feel like I was rejected by them. I always know that my brothers loved me and that they accepted my decisions. But I always, like I said, I think I accepted the role, and everyone else accepted the role of me as quote unquote black sheep from a very early age. Like I wanted to be like a skateboarder, and the Christian scene provided that for a little bit. I think Stephen Baldwin or something was doing like a skateboarding thing. My dad would take us to amusement parks growing up, and I loved skateboarding. So there was always this rebellious spirit. So I think that maybe led to them kind of not not necessarily rejecting my outlook on it, but just thinking like, of course, my nickname in the band too is and in my family is Babe. I've always been called Babe, so I think that they were kind of, and that doesn't help people take you seriously either, which is fine because I mean, honestly, that is one of my non-negotiables is don't take yourself too seriously. But something like that, I think right off the bat they were kind of like, I think this is kind of conspiratorial or whatever, and I wasn't gonna I let people make their own decisions. But it was becoming more and more apparent that what I was saying was true, particularly. I think it was shortly after Mayor Wu of Boston or whoever the hell it was at that time made like an announcement, basically like anyone in Boston, if you want to play in Boston, then you got to have X, Y, and Z, or literally you can go fuck yourself. You can bleep that out. Sorry, I don't know if we can swear on here.
You can.
But I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm completely done. I'm not playing this game anymore. So I want to get together with you guys and let's talk about this. Hopefully maybe we can talk about like a lot of the things that I was educating myself on, listening to like Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli, who is like my all-time favorite, and The Ripple Effect and The Union of the Unwanted with like all the guys and Charlie Robinson and obviously Etienne and his book and I had already kind of known a lot of this stuff by the time this rolled around, and like with the people that had died around me, like it's like anybody can die any which way. Clearly none of these people were, if anything, most of my friends were killed by the so-called medical industrial complex, then helped,
Yeah.
I forget where I was going with that.
You were going to get together with a band and figure out like what the heck's going on here.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. So we got together with the band and was kind of trying to talk to them about that. And it ended up being more of like, well, let's get together and play one last show because, we're going to continue. We're fine. We're vaccinated, so we can play. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. This is completely wrong. And I don't understand how anybody can't see that it is wrong on all ends, but to each their own. So go ahead, I'll figure out my own thing on my own. And we're like, let's play one last show at this venue called the Bull Run in Shirley. I opened up for Jonathan Edwards there back in the day as a solo act. We've played as a band there so many times, sold out. It was, every time we play there, it's sold out because it's such a local venue. And it's just crazy because at that point, there was a lot of fans. I was making posts on my Instagram, just simple posts like screenshotting like things, like how BlackRock and Vanguard were behind a lot of these things, just trying to kind of leave things open for people to make their own decisions or, articulate what they think I'm saying without being like, saying something directly. So a lot of fans were already kind of not happy about my stance, so to speak. And I think that one of them in particular, Sandy, I don't give a shit, I'll say his name. I think he might have told the owner of the Bull Run that I wasn't vaccinated or something like that. Which, granted, I don't do the managerial stuff. But going into it, I don't think that we were told we needed to be. Not that it matters anyways. It's completely ridiculous in retrospect. All of it is utterly absurd. But I went there. We're doing sound check, and I go downstairs to go to the bathroom. Coming out of the bathroom, I run into the owner, George, who we know each other very well, very close. Not very close, but like close as far as like a business, arrangement goes. Hey, the guy that, you play harmonica. Hey, babe, you sell out the place. You make me happy. I make you happy. Right on. Instead, He sees me and he goes, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, what are you doing here? You can't be here. I'm going to call the cops." And he said he was going to call the police on me. At first, I thought he was kidding. Then I realized that he's being dead serious. He's aggressively telling me that I'm not vaccinated and that I emailed the guys and the deal and you got to be vaccinated or you can't play. And I was like, dude, I sold your place. And I was like, but then I was like, oh, this is, I got excited because I was like, let's go upstairs. This is great. The guys are going to see how ridiculous this is. And Luke did. He right off the bat, he was like, what? He just couldn't believe it. And once again, I want to give my brothers credit here because I do love them to the end of the earth. Everyone makes their own decisions, and what they decide to do is up to them. I decided not to play that gig that night. I said, fuck this. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to play this show. As an artist at a venue, I felt completely disrespected by the venue owner. The fact that within 5 seconds of seeing me, he was threatening the police just upon my existence, such craziness. I haven't gone there since. I don't think I'll ever go there until I receive some sort of an acknowledgement that what he did was inappropriate, which I'm not the type of person that's like, I need an apology. Just screw you, dude. But my brothers played that show, and then we all kind of went to my house afterwards and hung out. But it would have been cool if they just didn't play the show. Honestly, that would have been pretty cool. But that's not the way the world was then. I have to think about like the way that people were really, really, really being bullied and scared into making the decisions they made. But look
Was
how
this
it all
like
turned out.
Was this like 2021, Brendan? Something like that?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so what happened from there?
So then I just didn't play I didn't play, and the band kind of went. I don't know. Like it just not a lot happened after that. Really, I don't think. I think that particular Bull Run event affected us all.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was for good or bad, I really don't know. But it definitely, like I said, I think it brought a lot. It pulled the curtain back. I'd like to think particularly for Luke. And then so yeah, then I just started kind of writing my own stuff with the mindset that I'm gonna have to just be on my own now and kind of do this all on my own. Quickly realizing that it requires so much. This is the part where I kiss Mike's ass. Because it's really hard. It's really, really hard to write emails and to set up websites and to make a Bandcamp and to keep up with posts and to keep up with this and to keep up with that and to spend time on screens, which is not something that a songwriter does. I want to fly by the fucking seat of my pants and write songs and just go off in the wind, but you can only do so much of that and be your own boss. You can't put it off on the hands of somebody else. So I have to give credit to Tim and Luke for doing that in town meeting.
Right.
But I also was foolish to not really realize how to. So I didn't succeed a lot past just playing like local places. But writing, I was doing more than ever and still am, because there's so much to write about, and so much of it being influenced by so many great content creators like you guys and, everyone that you have been influenced by. Like, I think I'm actually more optimistic than ever now because I see the cogs in the machine of I call anarchy, which is just, everybody, the natural law. Like where one system naturally does not work, there's another system that will work. And it's based off voluntarism and people with experiences like mine who are fed up the bullshit and want their kids to be truly educated and want real health. And,
well, I think
writing.
And that, so that I think leads, maybe I'm taking a giant step forward, but maybe leads nicely into you at Porkfest and meeting Mike and deciding, let's get some music going. What brought you to Porkfest?
So just listening to, oh man, so many different episodes of podcasts. I think it was and I got to give a shout out to Mark Steves from my family thinks I'm crazy, because he's my age, and I think I listened to his story. And obviously, my family thinks I'm crazy, just the name alone, which I think Sam Tripoli helped him come up with. And just right off the bat, I was like, this guy is just like me. And he's been listening to the same people that I've been listening to. And he just wanted to get his foot into to be he just went I think he went to Sam's show or something like that. And he gave him a copy of the Kabbalion. But what he did was he just physically put himself into that universe. And that was my thinking. I was like, if I could just be around people that I'm listening to, and I think the most recent episode, it was probably Tinfoil Hat episode. Somebody came on to talk about Pork Fest or Porcupine Fest. It's like, if I could just go here, then a lot of these people are probably going to be here, like Richard Grove, who I ran into of Autonomy and Grand Theft World. And it was just so funny. I mean, like I was listening, I think from My Family Thinks I'm Crazy, I think I ran into Richard Grove, and then who I'd heard before, but I reintroduced to him on My Family Thinks I'm Crazy. And then I started listening to his old podcast, Tragedy and Hope. And there was a clip of Mark Passio. And then I got huge into Mark Passio. I started going into the archives of Passio and went to Pork Fest, met Mark Passio, and met Richard Grove, and met Mike, and thank God, and Etienne. And yeah, but seriously, whatever force that I did run into Mike, because that was incredibly influencing and just beyond encouraging, to have met Mike and realize that not only is there like a whole, like that these people who I was anticipating to meet are here, but these are people that do forums and they do a lot of talking. And there was a lot of great art, but meeting Mike was very serendipitous, because because of your story and your family and everything that you and like this whole thing right here, where I'm sitting right here on the Terrain Theory podcast. I listen to every episode. It was just encouraging to know, and then see you with Sarah Lee Guthrie and like that whole thing of just like, man, like this isn't dead. There's people are experiencing the same thing, and they want a space to make and to grow music too, and for it to be heard. And it's going to require a lot of the things that I don't like necessarily to do, but I'm willing to do it, because, and fortunately enough, Mike was willing to help me in a lot of ways, and you too, Ben, by helping me build my website and do a lot of those technological things that I definitely am still learning. So
yeah, well, all right. So let's go back though, Pork Fest, because we're gonna start with the music now.
Okay.
And play some of the stuff from there, and I think we'll start with Hills We Die On, because it's the one that we've played before, but you're here, and I feel like chronologically it fits. So let's let's go into detail really quickly with that. You meet Mike and you guys are chatting, and when he says, well, I've got my recording gear here, like what's going through your head?
I think I had already met Etienne at that point, and I'm on my way to go see him. And then obviously Mike and him I see Mike on his way, and I just see that field recorder in the headphones. And on my way there, because like once again, it's post town meeting, so I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, I got to get my music. I'm going to make music for all these people. I got to get one of those. So I see him with one. I was thinking about it on the ride up, and I see him with one. I'm like, oh man, I got to get one of those field recorders, just like, shooting the shit like gear. Like, oh, what's that? Where do you get it? Blah, blah, blah. And Mike, being as friendly as he is, just kind of, like it all panned out perfectly. He told me all about it. He's a musician, the Mammals, blah, 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 blah. And then, he just as simple as, just like, yeah, I'm trying to record my music, and him just being like, let's, what are you up to? Let's just go record it, and I was totally fine with it being just that field recorder, but he had, you had everything in your van, man. And you set it up like as if it was just like a regular old recording session, which I had recorded, 3 albums with town meeting at that time. So I was very familiar with the process, and it was just so cool, like to be there, like post COVID, and have somebody who knew what the hell they were doing and was super stoked. He hadn't even heard anything of mine yet. He was just happy that he found a musician, and he had, I could feel the joy like emanating from him, and it was the exact person that I really whose the exact pair of ears that my music was supposed to fall into. I truly believe so. There's something very synchronistic about that. And we recorded every song that I had written up till that point. A few of them were really not even finished at that point.
And okay, so Mike, before we
And
cue this song up, Mike, what was going through your head?
I must have told some of this story in our Porkfest episode, but I had this perception that there was like a little bit of a buzz around Brendan because I showed up at the Etienne tent to hear Etienne. That's why I had the recorder. That's why the headphones around my neck. That's why the gear was in the van, because we were maybe gonna get some interviews taped while we were there. Like all the gear was there for the podcast end of the spectrum. But Brendan showed up with Etienne, and I could tell, or just through the small talk, like you had been hanging out late night with him and singing some songs, and there was like a little, just enough of a buzz for me to like get a foothold on like how seriously to take this complete random person I'm just meeting for the first time. And I was going to leave right after Etienne, because I think that was on Sunday. Ben, you had already gone home.
Yep.
I was going to listen to Etienne, and I was going to hop in the van and drive whatever 6 hours home. But something told me like, what the fuck, man? Like, you're here, the van is here, the gear is here. There's this kid. And that's exactly what you said, Brendan. You're like, oh, I got to get me one of those. Like, I got to find a way to record some of my songs. I'm like, let's go. Like, let's just go. And I mean, we're gonna drop the stuff is out digitally right now, folks, and we'll point you to where to get it. But we're gonna drop some hard copies soon as well. But that photo, Brendan, of like it's just you're sitting in a field on my igloo cooler with a couple of boom stands, and me standing there with my field recorder, and it just like encapsulates that moment so beautifully. And it's all like to use the phrase off grid. It's like we're just running on batteries. We're in a field making music.
It's not an igloo, man, not a Yeti.
Let's get it right.
That's it, not an igloo. Anyway, every song. I mean, how many did you do? 6 or 7? Like you said, they were all the songs you had at the time. It's like they were just, as we say in the business, you were just peeling them off. They were peeling off so nice. Like we were just in a zone, and it's very hard to capture that lightning in a bottle in this business, but it was absolutely captured in that moment. And The Hills We Die On is like this siren call. And that was probably the first song you sang. It's the first one I sent to Ben. It's the first one I sent to our buddy Tim, who was also there. It's the one we aired on the last episode. It's just this like, it's this war cry for like this new, as Tim Storrs articulated in the last episode, it's like we all felt part of something, and you really crystallized that feeling for the whole community with that song. And I still, that song still makes my hair stand up. Absolutely goosebump song.
Thank you so much.
Let's make some hair stand up. Let's play it now.
Okay.
We'd land on the moon in 1969. They lied about it, but I know that hill, and I know they'll kill and die on it, plant their flag on it. Tell me who killed who, and for what reasons, for what views, disguises. And I know that hill, and I know they'll kill and die on it. They can fight on it. And these are the hills, and these are the hills we'll die on. It's where we plant our flag, and what we will not change our minds on. These are the hills we'll die on. for the ride under the guise of science. And I know that hill, and I know they'll kill and die on it, test and try on it. We didn't need to be deceived about solutions to disease and violence. But I know that hill, and I know they'll kill and die on it. They can fight on it. These are the hills, these are the hills we'll die on. Where we plant our flag and what we will not change our minds on. These are the hills that we were killing down. And if everyone is wrong, and so the curtain has been drawn, and who's behind it? And I know that hill, and I know we'll kill and die on it. They rely on us. These are the hills, these are the hills we'll die on. It's where we plant our flag and what we will not change our minds on. These are the hills that we were killing down. We land on the moon in 1969. They lied about it, but I know that hill, and I know they'll kill and die on it.
All right.
Man, those birds tweeting, right?
It's so good.
It's so good. It's so good.
I've tried to record birds like 6 times since, and it never is the same.
Because they know. You can hear like a child too, like in the distance. At one point, it's just, man, that recording is so special. Brandon, you've met my son Grayson, who's 7 now.
Yeah.
Mikey knows him really well. He's an extremely sensitive young kid. Like he's
Same.
empathetic. He's very sensitive, and music is a real trigger for him. And there are songs that start in a minor key, and you can just tell right away that a song is going to be kind of melancholy or even on the sad side. I can't play this song with him.
Wow.
He tells me to shut it off. It's too much. Like he feels the weight of the emotion that you capture in this song, and he right now is too young to be able to like process that emotion.
Wow.
And so I have to listen to this song privately when he's around, because he can't handle it. And I think also because he sees what happens to me when I listen to it, and he can tell that I'm getting like caught up and choked up, and he's like, "Turn it off. I don't want us to be sad." And I'm like, "I get it."
Yeah. I should give a disclaimer that I am a big crybaby, and I was afraid. I was like, once I get talking to Ben, I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry about something because I'm super, super empathetic. Yeah, but that's what that song totally is capturing too. It's that the tragedy of the fact that there are it's two sides because it's like some hills are worth dying on, and other hills are foolish to die on, so to speak. I guess it's just my perspective, but it's just the truth. And like the whole "we didn't land on the moon" thing. Like, I don't know if you guys saw the newest episode on JRE with Bart Sabrell. I think I probably came up with that idea for that verse shortly after I listened to a multitude of things on the moon landing or whatever. And I'm still not going to act like I know.
Sure.
I don't know. I think that's the first step to anything, is really just admitting like I don't know. And then from there, also the episode of JRE with Grant, with Graham
Hancock,
and the other dude. I don't know if you listen to that one, but I'm not inclined to agree with a lot of the things he said, but he said he said a couple things that I like. Extraordinary evidence, or extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and you start from the known and you work into the unknown. And even though he was trying to kind of like disprove stuff, I was like, that is exactly the philosophy that I'm using in breaking something like the moon landing or any heroic moment of the past that was probably, subtly snuck in there to make you, to elicit a certain emotion at a certain time or whatever. And you built your life off of it. And simply because you're not willing to say, I don't know, that becomes the whole frame of your reality. It's a hill you're willing to die on, and willing to die so much that you'll send soldiers to war or vaccinate multitudes of children, even though you know that it's going to kill people. It's going to hurt. It's going to mess people up. You built your life on it. So I think we have to be careful to keep that in check.
That the reason the song crystallized so much for me and for Ben, I think, is because, and it's not like a lot of people use this phrase, but my red pill moment really was the whole COVID scam. And Ben was my gateway into this awareness of vaccines in general, but obviously COVID put it in like stark relief. But that was your line. You would always say, Ben, like, this is the hill I will die on, like bodily autonomy, right? Yeah. The boundary of my skin does not get crossed. This is the hill I die on. And so when you put it into a song, I mean, it was the universe conspiring to bring the past and the future into that one incredible moment. But you're right, Brendan. I mean, to say, where to plant our flag and what we will not change our minds on. It's like just how impenetrable pride is in our culture. Like, people just, they don't want to budge. And because it's, as Ben has reminded me many times through this journey, it's like, it's very delicate business to deconstruct somebody's worldview. And if they've built their whole worldview around a certain set of assumptions and a fair measure of trust in the culture, in the society, in their education, in their mentors, it's no small thing to start to even ask a question, to shake that foundation. And
through that,
I partly what I really admire about you, and in some ways are slightly envious, is that you're at the place where you're at in your career, where you can really build an audience from scratch with this sort of messaging and lyrical content and these sort of ideas. Where I have this, I'm in this place, having already been in this business for 25 years, where I've built an audience that is by and large not very like-minded in light of current events. And I have to figure out a way to take them with me without, I guess I don't have to do that. One can do any number of approaches to how they want to proceed with their art and their messaging and their audience and yada, yada, yada. But I've chosen to sort of try and thread that needle and bring people along with me. Sort of like Sarah Lee was doing too, right? Like, we're not super outspoken about what we think, but you can figure it out. Right.
I think that's super important. Definitely.
Well, because I think at the end of the day, we're striving to be entities of union and not division, right? Mm-hmm. And as Ben always reminds, to take the high road. We're not trying to be a force of division. We're trying to take people along with us. But you have, I think, a unique opportunity to also do that, but also be a little bit more real about who you are now, like unabashedly. which I guess when we get to organized crime is a perfect example of that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. You know, as the great prophet Sam Tripoli says, you know, focus on the similarities, not the differences.
Yeah.
And it's so true. You know, and if more people could do that, then, you know, that should, you know, that what your hill is, Ben, is exact same for me. That was also that's what I also think is great about a song. It can mean two different sides of what it's said. You know, it's yeah, it's yeah. Um yeah, I love writing songs, man.
It's well, you know, I don't know if I've told this story.
I'm grateful that you like it, and that it has that effect on you, and the fact that you said that about Grayson that's emotional for me, because it definitely carries. When I wrote it, it was that, like, right off the jump, I wanted to kind of, you know, in a way, like, either like piss you off or pump you up.
Yeah, dude.
You know? Like, make up
you
your
know,
mind.
when I was younger, I still feel this way, but I actually acted on it more when I was a younger songwriter. Like, I was really big into the first line. Ben, you remember like some of my early songs,
Yeah.
like just like fucking going for the knockout blow on line one, like the ugliest girl, fuck the ugliest guy, or whatever it was. Like, I would just start songs with like some pretty brash shit just to like, let's get this party started. Like, let's go. And
Yeah.
that's basically what your song does, maybe, albeit in maybe a slightly more nuanced, mature
It's
way.
like, to me, like a breadcrumb of investigation, where it's like, if we could all just sit at the table and, you know, in good fun, not necessarily say that the earth is flat and the moon is hollow, disc or whatever, but like, just like, hey, do you think there's any truth at all to the fact that, like, you know, maybe our government lied to us about this particular event that seems to have an incredible amount of evidence that proves otherwise, and I could still be wrong, and that's the most important part. You know, I'm not saying I'm right, but like, I definitely am going to say it at this point now, post COVID, where I've already been kind of like thrown out of the, you know, the party, blackballed or whatever. You know, might as well just, you know,
Exactly.
just lean into it, you know, that's, so to speak. And
Well,
that was
yeah.
kind of the thought behind that. And then the song develops as it goes, and whatnot. And that whole line of, you know, we didn't need to be deceived about solutions to disease and violence. Really trying to put in that medical, military, industrial complex, you know, follow the money.
Yeah. Well, and you've arrived at a place that I've heard Tom Cowan articulate in recent conversations, is that we don't need to figure out what's true. We're just trying to figure out what's not true. It's, you know, like you said, with what extraordinary evidence to make extraordinary claims.
Yeah.
Let's start to tease out what doesn't really feel right, and it doesn't even actually matter what's real if we can figure out what's not real.
Right. So the truth will set you free. That's the purpose of it. Like, I remember where I heard, but someone talked about it like the skin of a drum, and like the more you beat it, the wider the vibration spreads, because of like the lower the you know, the frequency can go farther because it's being expanded.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's the truth setting you free, in my opinion. It's like, the more you can kind of step outside the limitations of what you feel is reality, which, while keeping, you know, your both feet on the ground, so to speak, you know, like, you have to live your life and take care of your family.
Yeah.
But also, it's like, our world, all is mental, you know, like our worldview is framed based on the frames we build for it, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Let's move on to, let's see, song number 3. There Goes the Weather. You want to set this up?
This one's super emotional for me. This one's kind of one of those ones that just like opened up, like, I just let the gates open up and it kind of flooded on in, like it all just came at once. I was actually visiting, this is where I might cry. I was visiting my friend Connor out in Portland, and it was after I recently made like a really, really hard decision in my life, probably one of the hardest decisions I ever made, to allow myself simply to make that decision. And I guess overall, what this song has truly become is like really like everything can be taken to the point of doom and gloom like really easily. And I think that can eat people alive in a pretty significant way. Like when you pull back the veil, so to speak, if it's like that scene in Scrooge or whatever, like when he opens up the thing, it's like all like the demon, like, or like the Matrix, Matrix, when he like, it's all like, it can be horrifying. Or it can seem horrifying, but in reality, it's just like I got into Ram Dass a bunch, and I think it was him who talked about like thoughts are just like, they're just like clouds, like they're like anything, it's like they come in and there's all sorts of, it's the reality at the time, but like on top of reality, there's another reality. And like, it just that things are the way they are. You could cut all this part out.
No, I'm not gonna.
Because I don't know. I have a recording of this song when I went to Maine to visit my friend Connor, and it's just me coming up with the idea. I don't have any lyrics yet, but listening to the recording gets me going because it's just me like crying my eyes out, like I don't have any lyrics, but just the emotion of it is like there. And I'm so overwhelmed by it that I have to I'm trying to like struggling to get my phone to try and like record the thing. And then later, I was at my place in Ashburnham. I was living by myself because I, chose to separate from my girlfriend, who I'm back together with now, who's, the most amazing person in the world. But at that point, it was really, there was a lot going on in my head, in the psyche, trauma, shit like that, things you need to clear out on your own. So that song is kind of about that. It's really like the fool's journey, I guess.
All right.
It's it's always changing. It's always coming back. It's, like, if I, for everything I have to gain, I'll have to give back up again is one of the lines in the song. And it's, once again, it's just this, it's sometimes when you write a song, it's like, you're searching for things to say. And then other times it just all comes out and it's crazy. You're just like all of it. Like, and then you have to look back and like, very often I'm like literally like crying my fucking eyes out, like while I'm writing it, because I can't believe what's happening. I'm experiencing something supernatural.
Yeah.
But I allow it to happen. It can't always happen, but sometimes in the right place at the right time, I don't know what it is, the right combination of things, it can happen. And that song is one of them, where to me, I'm just like, I can't take credit for it necessarily. It just only as a vessel for it to come out, know. And
you're channeling it. When we were walking to the van to cut these songs, that was the moment where I knew that you were for real. Because we were just making small talk and getting to know each other. And how do you write a song? And I was like, well, I usually just like try to open up the channel and let it pour through, put up the antenna, as I say. And you were like, yeah, that's what I do too. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. Like no one says that. No one says that, but I know exactly what you mean. Like I said, it doesn't happen every time. It's not like we have this magical ability to just open up the channel and the songs come through. Like it doesn't really work like that, but sometimes it fucking does. Yeah. Sometimes it fucking does. And you just got to get out of the way and see what happens. And if you're very lucky, you can get it on paper,
Yeah. And man, Mike, I mean, if anyone listening to this hasn't listened to the Mammals or Mike and Ruthie, man, you guys, so much music that is right in that lane, where I'm like, this is such beautiful music. It was like a gift going to Porcupine Fest and being like, oh, you don't have like music that's encouraging and inspiring and written from people that are authentic and true. Here's the Mammals. Here's Mike and Ruth. It was
Thank
great.
you, brother. Right on.
All right, well, let's open up the channel and listen to this one. Let it flood the ears of our listener. This is There Goes the Weather. It's track 3 on the Live at Porkfest 2023 album.
I need to tell you something. Seems like it's a dream to me, or more like just a memory that I forgot so long ago that now it's hard to tell what isn't real and what's reality without the tragedy of dying. Right down the rabbit hole I go. I know it's never ending, moving under frozen lakes and crashing like the ocean waves and flowing by like golden flakes. The naked eye can't see. I was panning in the river when the rain rolled down on me, and I said, there goes the weather. I said, there goes the weather, and when it's over we'll be better, but the sun won't shine forever. If I could offer in some peace of mind, I think I'd say that you can fall asleep in sunlight without waking up the rain. There goes the weather, I said, there goes the weather, and when it's over we'll be better, but the rain won't fall forever. If everything I have to gain I'll have to give back up again, and I hope you get back up. Oh, I know you'll get back up on it. I got the mountain to myself. It's early in the morning. Times like these it's plain to see I'm not who I used to be, and maybe it's the history we're fed. I heard it said we're all still scared of those same monsters hidden underneath our beds. Back down the rabbit hole again. Don't even get me going. Octopus of such control, rigmarole rodeo. And if I have to ride the bull and fall, then fall I will. I wouldn't stay here for forever with these rabbit holes to fill. There goes the weather, I say. There goes the weather, it's breaking. I'm breaking down again. There goes the weather, I said. There goes the weather, it's breaking. I'm breaking down again. There goes the weather, I said.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Rabbit hole, right down the rabbit hole. I was gonna call the song The Rabbit Hole at first, but I think there was like a million other songs named The Rabbit Hole, and the weather was more to the point.
I love that you at one point you've got to fill in the rabbit hole. It's fucking hilarious. Rabbit holes to fill.
Yeah.
It's like enough fucking rabbit holes. Can we just fill some of these in already? I'm gonna trip.
Yeah,
I'm gonna fucking break my ankle.
I love that evolution.
There's always gonna be more.
Yeah,
like, there's always gonna be more. You know, that's kind of a lot of it. I think it can be easy to, I'm trying to say, we all drink, if we can, we drink filtered spring water, usually out of a glass. But I'm gonna wager to guess that you guys are like me, and if you're really thirsty and that glass bottle of spring water isn't around, you're gonna be like everybody else. You gotta get the Poland Spring bottle at the gas station or whatever, and you shouldn't give yourself 40 lashes for that. Enjoy the water. But like, cause what, water's got fluoride in it. And then I saw like this video a little while ago that's like, there's black mold on toilet paper. Like all toilet paper is like horrible. So then I had this thought. I'm like, wow. So okay, so you need to have a bidet because there's black mold on toilet paper, but you need to have a filter for your bidet because there's fluoride in the water. So like, you know what I mean? Like it can be exhausting, and you have to not to jump too forward into organized crime, but Steve Falconer, shout out, that like find your joy is huge. Don't put the cart before the horse, which I'm jumping ahead, but like that is kind of like a lot of this song too, is just like, yeah, like right down the rabbit hole again. And also it's like, it's panning in the river, there's gold nuggets. Like there's gold in a lot. There is gold to find. Like, you guys are leading people in the direction of gold that I've personally found. Like that last episode, gold. If I could remember more, then I would name other guests, but like the other guy, Parrot, that was incredible. Like just some things that I just Danny, like really resonate with me, and with a lot of other podcasts too. And it's not even the person that has them on, but we live in this world where we can all everybody has access to everything. So, don't get overwhelmed. Don't, not you, but like, the listener or whatever, because it can be easy to become overwhelmed with a lot of the doom and gloom and the reality.
The black pill.
Yeah.
Phenomenon. You remind me of because let's not be foolish. Like these toxins are out there. They're everywhere. They're omnipresent. It does feel like an attack. Mm-hmm. But like you so articulately said, there's a hell of a lot of gold and beauty out there to be harvested and remembered and enjoyed as well. But this is back 10 or 15 years ago when like the whole fracking debate was going on in upstate New York. And I was pretty involved in that. And I was visiting a friend in Pennsylvania where fracking was being practiced and legalized. And I was meeting all these people whose communities were just being devastated. And I don't know if you watched that movie Gasland. It's like people would turn their faucet on in their home and they could hold a match up to it and it would just ignite. It's like there was gas everywhere. The water was ruined. The water table was ruined. People who lived in this community their whole lives, now their tumors are appearing all over their body. Like it's just a horror fucking show, as bad as you can remember or imagine. And but I was talking to my friend Peter, who lived in Pennsylvania, and we were talking about this issue. And Peter has this ability to sort of like transcend and rise above and really focus on the positive. And I was like, but Peter, we're in Pennsylvania. Like this is happening all around you, like all around where you live. And like I said, I was really in it at this moment. I was like, what if, and this is your grandson's right here. And like, what if you went out and there's a puddle on the side of the road and it's just filled with frack water. Like what would you say to your grandson? He's like, I would tell him, you bend down and you put your lips right up to that water because it can't hurt you. And I was just like, boom, mic drop. Like, I was just like, whoa, like that's a 5D approach.
That's not saying don't do anything about it. That's saying come at it. I think, and there's a story, I think Ram Dass used to talk about like how with his foundation or whatever that like, basically like tried to like give people clean water, do all these incredible things surrounding all this immense tragedy and horror. And he had something called like the serious glasses or something like that. And, like anytime anyone needed to talk about like anything like super serious, they had to put on the serious glasses because it's like, of course we have to talk about this. Of course we're going to try and get down to the details of how we can help, if we can help. I think that is natural law. I think natural law is really just a fine line where do as thou will meets fuck around and find out. But it's the attitude we approach, knowing our power, knowing first and remembering like what we are capable of. Then we can achieve anything.
Yeah. Brendan, let me ask you from a songwriter point of view on that last song, There Goes the Weather. You already told the story how you were trying to get the music down and you're crying and it's so emotional and you're just like, really pouring the soul part of the music into just like trying to capture it in that moment. And I have found that when that's happened for me, like when you know you're onto something, you have something really good, like how were you able to then go back and get those words to match up with the power of the music so beautifully? Like, because I imagine you went back and did that afterwards, right?
You mean just playing it?
Well, like how did you, because it sounded like, and maybe I'm wrong, but like when you got that inception down on your phone recording when you were first getting the music down.
I got that down, and then I pulled it back up when I was just hanging around in Ashburnham, just sulking.
Yeah.
And I was like, how am I? And once again, back to the first line. Every song starts with the first thing you're going to say in it. I'm not the type that usually comes up with a chorus or like a middle part first. Sometimes I have a melody in my head. It's a lot harder for me to put a song together.
Yeah.
You know, coming up with like a chorus or structured bridge part and then working from there. I usually just got to start like from the jump. But it's like a seed in soil to me. It's like I had that seed, and if I can get the seed down recorded, then I can work on like all the micronutrients that need to go into the soil later, which to me is all going to start with like just that first line. And it doesn't always need to be gold, but it will create the momentum to start that writing process.
Yeah.
And then as the writing process goes, sometimes I'll go back and edit a word or two here and there to fit what's the word, not alliteration.
Yeah, sure. Like just to get like the flow of things to go a little smoother. Yeah. Well, that's a skill, because I have found that sometimes I'll get something that I'm really excited about when quote unquote the channel's open, but if I don't stay in that moment with the channel on that day, that I have a hard time getting back to it and then matching up what I want to say to the feeling that is engendered in the inception moment. But it sounds like you don't have that problem. If you get the kernel down, then you just need to keep watering it, and then it'll
I think
bloom.
if the emotion's close enough at reach, because like thinking about this song in particular, it was when I captured the seed of me, like, emotionally crying, writing down the idea, it was because I was just heartbroken. I just broke up. My girlfriend and I wasn't sure in myself. I wasn't sure in anything. I wasn't sure in the world. And so I thought about that emotion, and that first place of that emotion when I did it, it was like, like kind of like on the way driving in the car, and it just brought me to a memory. And then I just was like, from there, it was like, oh, turn down the radio. I think I need to tell you something. And the song wasn't, like, I don't ever want to write a song that's like, turn down the radio. I think I need to tell you something. I'm gonna break up with you. Like, I don't want to say something direct. I want to say a million things.
Yeah.
I want the song to be interpreted to every person that hears it and have it be accessible to their own thing in their own life. So even though it started from that, I just know that starting place is going to lead to the overall arcing place that I want to take it, which is down the rabbit hole.
Right. Well, it starts sort of in material reality, but what it does for me is it provides this beautiful representation of like someone's internal monologue, like the private, quiet part of the mind that you don't share out loud. But 100%. It starts from a place of, we're just turn down the radio, I need to tell you something. And then it goes, like,
boom.
It goes subdermal. But so just to get back from the nuts and bolts, like craftsmanship part, I'm curious, like how many hours or days passed between capturing that seed of the music and finishing the words?
Probably within like, let's see, that song in particular.
Yeah.
Right when I revisited those, right when I revisited the original recording of just the wah wah wah, I got down all of that. Turn down the radio. I think I need to tell you something. Seems like a dream to me, more like just a memory.
Yeah.
And all of that just within a matter of minutes. And then it was just gnawing at me like anything. It's like I got to finish this song.
Yeah.
So I went for a hike the next morning. I hiked up Mount Watatic, which at that point I was living very close to. And then it was just like, I got the mountain to myself. It's early in the morning, and just bam, like right off the bat, you start with, what's happening, what's
you are.
reality.
Yeah.
And the beginning of that last verse is the exact same thing too. I'm going back to a memory, and it doesn't seem like reality to me.
Yeah.
And a lot doesn't seem like reality to me. So the song goes.
So you really stayed with it.
Exactly what you said.
You stayed with it over several days, but like kept nagging at you. Like it was in you and it was with you, and you knew you had to sort of like stay with it.
Yeah. Probably, I'd say it was probably that second verse. So 2 days, because the first day came that first verse, and then the second day I went and I hiked, and it still wasn't finished. And I remember working. I remember like pushing a wheelbarrow and then being like, maybe it's like I knew I wanted to have a line in there, like maybe it's the history we're fed, and then it's like, oh, maybe it's the history we're fed. I heard it said we're all still scared of those same monsters hidden underneath our bed. And like, I just had to drop the wheelbarrow right there and like pick up the phone and record it. Cause it was just like, it's like a whisper slowly just kind of like coming in. If like an antenna is a great, like, and then sometimes it comes in clear and right away, you're like, oh, that's it. That's the one. I have to get that down. And that was it. Cause that verse is just so impactful. Like, like, I couldn't even begin to say like what, how much depth is in that line of like, maybe it's the history we're fed. I heard it said we're all still scared of those same monsters hidden underneath our bed. I was like, damn.
I know. Sometimes you're like, where does this shit come from? That's fucking good. Thank you. Thank you, Muse.
Exactly.
Betting on the Muse.
Because it helps me, and that's what I love about a song is just, and there's nothing new under the sun. So it's really just finding new ways to say the same old thing. But that can have that impact and the resonance, the song is resonance. And
I think it's finding new ways to show people the channel, right? This is what the channel sounds like through me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just this is coming to me in the moment here, but like that's what's occurring to me.
Yeah.
Like all through time, this is how it is represented: the antenna, the channel, the light, the resonance through my portal for you to witness.
At Porcupine Fest, it was not only enough to record, to get you interested in enough to break out all the equipment and set up a recording to make the album, but also I literally was walking around and I ran into this dude, Garen, and he was selling beers and like, or just, it was Porcupine Fest. So he was just kind of like, he just not selling, just had his things out for trade and was like, this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, oh, I got some, I have a little I have some flour, how about some beer, blah, blah, blah. And then cause mostly I just wanted to sit down by a light and play my songs for someone. I was like, you mind if I play some songs? So I started playing some Alice in Chains right off the bat, right when I was done with the first Alice in Chains song. He was like, dude, honestly, I was going to pack up my stuff. I was going to put everything away until you came up, but now our trade's negotiated. You have your things, I have my things. And like, I traded like weed and bullets, for like beer. Like, it was a classic, like barter moment. It was great, which is classic what I was looking for, that authentic experience too. But he made sure to officially state that was now past, and that everything of his is now like, like as long as you're here playing music, dude, like help yourself to anything you want.
Yeah.
And it was just cool to know, like, music, like, this is currency. It's currency that what you have to offer, if you can be vulnerable enough to play it, and it sounds good. Which fortunately enough, it does. I never took any songwriting lessons. I've never taken a songwriting class. I've never had any vocal lessons. I've never been classically trained. I learned how to play harmonica by happenstance, just because I always loved the blues. I always loved like John Lee Hooker and like, all those blues, just the emotion of the blues, and the harmonica was just the easiest way to, I would like beatbox into it and stuff. Yeah, that was like what I first used it for. I wanted to like rap into it.
That's dope. That's dope.
Oh, let's get on to the third one. This is bringing us closer to the present. This particular performance of this particular song happened just a few weeks ago when Brendan, you solo opened for the Mammals at the Egremont Barn, right? That's in Massachusetts, or is that in New York?
It's in Western Mass.
Western Mass, yeah. This is organized crime. You want to tell us a little bit about this song before we cue it up?
It's just got a lot of references. It's very much based off of Etienne de la Botte Squared's book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed, which basically is just I met him obviously at Porcupine Fest, and he gave me a signed copy, and he was just an incredibly generous, awesome person, and was super kind and taught me a lot just by being around him. So I had just I just read his book all the way through. I think I had just watched that Steve Falconer video. So it was like directly from like watching that video from your guys' podcast, into reading Etienne's book. And I like just literally closed it. And then, yeah. So like that beginning part, I don't think this ever existed. The cart before the horse, I think is directly out of Falconer's video. He shows like the cart, because to me, that just was like such a good layout, such a backwards way of thinking, the way that we treat so much of our, medical problems or whatever. It's just such a backwards way of thinking, which is a shame, because I think a lot of people don't understand that they are in a system of deceit, Yeah. So that was another one of those kind of, I'm going to punch pretty hard right out of the gate, we did the moon landing, let's tackle terrain theory. It was, but it's not, it's like, I don't think this ever existed. It once again, it goes into the whole realm of like, not only did this invisible enemy not exist, but the one before that didn't exist either. And the one we all went to fight to our wars for doesn't exist either. And, voting, whatever stock you want to put into that's not going to fix it. These people mean business, and you can follow the money, and you can figure out exactly who they are, these public-private partnerships. And, I don't know my ass from my elbow. I don't know shit from Shinola when it comes to this stuff. That's why I got like, and even in that song, The Weather, it's like Octopus of Such Control. That's a direct reference to Charlie Robinson's book. In Etienne's book, like all these books, I don't write books. I can't write a book, but I can write a song. So I can read books. Maybe I can write a book eventually. I'm not going to limit my reality, but a lot. So yeah, it's this song is based just is cut and dry from it's, you could call the song conspiracy theory, because I think a lot of it is just like is I think the killing of the king, the sacrificial victim reference is James Shelby Downard and George Carlin, the big club that you're not in. I'm trying to kind of trying to drive the point home with all of it, and be as direct as possible while still not being too direct, and, having it be a catchy song. And organized crime, I think, is the best way to describe it. It's one of the best ways to describe it. Because it's like, I've got, every which way right now I can go. I could go open up a cash box, put some money in it, and take some eggs, for like, $6 to $8, cheaper than the grocery store. That any street I go down right now, I could go buy birdhouses, and or I could go steal all the eggs, resell them, steal the birdhouse. I'm not doing that. No one's doing that.
Right.
We care about each other. But however, in the midst of all this, I have to worry because I'm overdue to pay my excise tax. You know what I mean? Like I have to like figure that whole debacle out, because I think it probably went to, because I don't live with my parents. The mail went there. It's, you know what I mean? And it's like, and if I don't, like, they're coming for you. Like, so if that's not organized crime, what is it? Because what? A car I bought, I own, I paid for, bought it from my dad. My dad's owned it for years. And the agent that's going to come put me in jail for it probably doesn't even know how to drive it. It's just, that system isn't the same as the one that has eggs down the street. And the fact that they exist at the same time, it's like, let's wake up. Let's let's work on building this new system, because I think the base has been built. There's enough working factors here, and I think a lot of people in the past have given their lives literally in pursuit to that. So
yeah, okay,
this was kind of an homage to a lot of those great artists in the past who I think have maybe been killed or have just really just, you know, trying to expose a lot of a lot of the organized crime that exists here, whether it's human trafficking or war or, you know, pick your poison.
Well, what I like about it is, I think in the culture, you hear organized crime and you think like some Italians in New York City from 50 years ago. And you're like, no, brother, today, now, from all time, let's go.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. Organized crime. This is live at the Egremont Barn.
Ever existed, put the cart before the horse. The 6 foot point of distance and the damage that's been done. The government, the gun that shoots to save us. And I don't need the pills and vaccinations. I got all the air to breathe. The sunshine on my face is just like medicine to me. Why do we compete with Mother Nature? Well, war is hell, a weapon of taxation. It's been poison in the well. I wonder how they made it so that we could hardly tell the difference between slavery and salvation. All through the turning, all through the turning of time. Let's call it what it is. It's organized crime. All through the turning, all through the turning of time. Let's call it what it is. It's organized crime. For it's easier to trick somebody than it is to convince them that they've been tricked. pick your tribe, but your choice is an illusion. It's just two sides of the toss. The red one and the blue one, yeah, they'll televise the fight and demonetize the revolution. Well, history is written by the victors. It's the killing of the king, the sacrificial victim, and the club that you're not in. The power that's corrupted absolutely. All through the turning, all through the turning of time. Let's call it what it is. It's organized crime. There's only three things that no one can hide. It's the sun and the moon and the truth about organized crime. Thank you very much, everybody.
Hello.
Wow.
The fact that so the history behind that video, real quick, is as Brendan mentioned, the song was largely inspired by Etienne's book, Organized Crime, or not organized,
Government.
government,
The biggest
scam in history exposed. Right. And so when Etienne learned about the song and heard the song, he was so pumped up that he wanted to make a video, which was the pages of the book turning with the soundtrack of your song. And we thought that was all good, but like maybe that for like a 6-minute song, that's going to get like a little tired after a while. Like maybe we should have some live performance like intermingled. And God bless you. You were like, you set up your iPhone and you did a few takes of like, you just lip syncing and you're like, this is awkward as fuck. But like, you know, you're like, you guys say jump, I say how high, like, let's go. What can I do? And you're totally on board, but that wasn't working either. And then I spoke with Etienne a couple days before the show. It was the worst connection ever. He's in Mexico. I can only make out like every third or fourth word that he was saying. But I somehow got the idea that he's like, if there's any way that at the show you guys could film the song, like that would help us hugely. And I'm thinking like, well, I know that they have a really nice rig at Egremont Barn, but like, again, like, is Brendan going to do that song? Like, do we want to do that song for a Mammals audience? Is that going to come on too strong? I was in the back of my mind thinking like, well, maybe even after the show, we can get Nick to like film Brendan doing it. And this is just like what's going on in the back of my mind. Part of me was like, I hope he does fucking do the song, because who gives a fuck? And then you did it as your last song and crushed it. And the video was captured. And I was like, and I wrote to Etienne the next day, I was like, dude, you are a powerful fucking manifester, dude, because it just happened. Like, I stayed out of the way. I'm like, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But he planted that seed and it all happened. And that's a gorgeous concert video, man. I mean, hats off to Nicholas Keene, folks. He's been on the show in the past talking about ayahuasca. So that's the same Nicholas Keene, owner of the Egremont Barn. And he is so passionate about presenting live music, but also documenting it. And they have recorded and filmed every show that's ever gone down at the Egremont Barn. Now, they don't always get produced. A lot of those shows just sit on hard drives collecting dust, because it's a lot of work to get to it. But he said to me after the show, Brendan, he's like, which of Brendan's set do you want me to work up for an edit? I didn't have to think long about that. Organized Crime, the last song he did. And then the next day we had it.
Yeah, big love to him, man. And that place is just incredible. I mean, that I was so mystified by how beautiful and cool that place was. And he was such a nice guy, and that was rad. Yeah, that video was great. I had no set list. I kind of worked one up, and then, as always, it's like set list never does me any good because there's not anyone there when you write it.
Right.
Then you have to kind of rewrite. I just rewrite one once I get there. But yeah, the last minute, I think I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna do Organized Crime. Yeah, because it's got a little more like when I showed it to my brother, I think I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna play this one, or I was like, I kind of just want to play Hills We Die and Organized Crime just to piss everybody off. And he's like, oh, I don't know. He's like, you should play Organized Crime though. It's like that one's not really controversial. I think that one's more just. He's like, I don't think that one's anti-vax. I think it's pro-nature. I was like, I don't really see a difference, but hell yeah.
I don't see a difference. There's only 3 things. That's such a great way to end the song.
Oh yeah, I love that. I thought it was all done, and then I went and took the dog for a walk around the block, and that one came to me. It's like boom, right at the end. I was like, what if you throw in there's only 3 things thing that Buddha quote that's always flowing around the internet, but it's so true and so in tandem with what I'm saying, because it's like the sun and the moon. It's as you can't. It almost kind of reverts back to that. Like, why do we compete with Mother Nature? There is no chance for deceit and lies to become the total of reality, because the truth will always be the truth.
Yeah, it's as eternal as the sun and the moon. Yeah, that's a brilliant line. It's a brilliant way to end that song.
Thank you. Yeah, I love that song.
I didn't think I could love any of your songs more than The Hills We Die On. I mean, I love the whole Porkfest album, but The Hills We Die On, just being, for the reasons that Mike already articulated, that line, the one that I've used from the beginning of this pandemic. But then this came out, and honestly, it's like this is one that Grayson will let me play, but he lets me sing out loud because it interrupts his reading. But he's down with it. He loves the song, and yeah. I've heard him now humming it and also repeating some lines. I'm like, yes, this is the education. This is the proper education.
It's the sun and the moon.
That's a shout out to Anthony Semino from Mojo Sound Studios, because that's he captured a pretty good version of it on the one you're probably listening, unless you're just listening to Egremont over and over again. But
both. But lately the live one, again, it's like that lightning in the bottle. And I just love, I think you as a singer-songwriter, and then just a little tambourine on your foot. It's just so good, so pure.
I think being around people like you, Mike, it's like it's being around people. I think you can acquire a little bit of what they're capable of. So I think it was shortly after probably going to the studio, and then you being like, you got to watch Steve Falconer's video. And it was in a wave of inspiration. So I think that the song is more constructed a little more better than,
it's
simply by being around such a great songwriter like yourself, who really knows the structure of how to write a song and stuff. So
thank you.
I'm proud of that one big time. And now you just deal with the usual case of trying to write another song and not live in the realm of comparison, being the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Be like, I just got to keep writing songs,
Let me ask you a question, just to, probably should wrap it up pretty soon, although we could go on all day. But I
knew this was going to happen.
Well, we're just bros hanging out at this point, which is what it should be. But just to circle back to the very beginning of the conversation, which, by the way, thanks for sharing your history with us, because I getting to know you better this last year, but we don't know each other that well, and to know your early history with your family and your Christian roots, and and your brother and your connection with them. And have you, it's like baby steps, right? With sort of like the waking people up, so to speak. But like, have you brought any of the Falconer esoteric biochemistry, like sort of blowing the whistle on Bible literalism to your family and like recontextualizing the Christian stories through that lens? Have you shared that information with your family?
Little by little. I think it's really morely just like the moments that I feel connected with them, I really relish in, or I just love. So there's like just trying to connect with them, and I think humor is a really great way to do that with family, particularly in my upbringing where I am in Massachusetts. There's not anything that you try and like anything really that you're into and you want your brothers and sisters to be into it too, man, they're just gonna make fun of you.
Yeah.
And it's good. They should. Honestly, I'm glad they do. It'd be weird if they all were like, Brendan, you're so right. I don't want them to be any other way than they are.
Yeah.
So in the moments where I feel we're connecting, I'll usually use humor as a tool to bring in a lot of that stuff. And a lot of it is just me going off the deep end and like leaning into it while they make fun of me. But I'm at the same time, we're all kind of like, we're all laughing in the midst of truth.
Yeah.
So I think moments like that are great. My brother Luke, we go off sometimes. I think he has kids though. So it's like, it's different. I think he avoids the black pill. A lot more can black pill him. And I'm also the only one who can smoke weed. The only brain in my family who can tolerate cannabis, I guess.
Oh, no kidding.
So I think a lot of that just going through the ego death and like a lot of these psychedelic experiences have really kind of already put me in a position where I'm like, yeah, this is all an illusion, blah, 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 whatever. Yeah.
Well, that's all fascinating.
Yeah, yes and no, I guess.
Yeah. That's basically what I was expecting.
Not directly, not like, take a look at this. I think that movie Thrive is a good example. That was like, I think in my early 20s, maybe even a teenager still. And it was like that angst of like, you just need to watch this. If you could just shut up and watch this movie, then you would get it, Nikola Tesla.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. And you're robbing yourself of joy. So like I think just, to share another Ram Dass quote, if you want to cure the world, emanate love, don't emanate fear. So I think that's the best way I can do that. And my dad, I'll talk all the time. I'll talk about religion. I love talking about the Bible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have this other idea for a song in my head. Really, it's like I don't want to kill your dinosaurs, and I don't want to steal your Santa Claus. I don't know where it's going yet. But I don't want to steal a Santa Claus. Basically, like I'm not trying to like, take away his whole like whatever. But I do love to talk about it, and I think he values that too. Me being like curious about like the Bible, what he believes in, and I try with my mom. I love my mom dearly. That relationship's a little tougher. Social media and mothers, I think, is just a bad combination.
There it is.
Of her generation, I don't know, particularly of her generation.
Brendan, you've dropped you've dropped a lot of wisdom on this podcast, but that might be the pearliest pearl of them all.
And Mom, if you're listening, which you probably will because you love me, I love you too, big time. But they know. I think that's the great thing. It's like if you want to know anything about what I know, I'm probably gonna stumble over my words and sound like an idiot trying to tell you.
Yeah.
I have, fortunately enough for me, I have all of these great places that I can point them in the direction of. Yeah. And lately with me and Luke, that's been happening. So that's been pretty cool.
Well, look, it's like the name of the band, Town Meeting, like the church as the center of the community, the center of the town. It's like that is not an accident, right? And these incredible edifices and these structures and like the whole Tartarian rabbit hole and like There's a reason those were the center of the town. There's a reason that spire went higher than everything else, and there were town ordinances in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Ben, where we grew up. For a long time, you're not allowed to build higher than the spire of the community church in the center of town. There's a reason things like that exist, right? And so there's so much depth in wisdom, in truth, in healing, in community, in family, and like all the good shit wrapped up in what you were saying, town meeting, center of the community. And to me, that's what I found so mind-blowing about the Steve Falconer esoteric biochemistry film, because it validated all of that intuition, all of that family history, all of that beauty. And it made it more real to me and not less, because the literal stories never felt real to me. They felt like stories. But divorcing the message from the literalism actually made it way more tangible. So that's why I'm always interested if the more textbook, for lack of a better term, Christians, if there's an opening there for them to at least consider the more allegorical elements, because the work and the energy is already present with these people and how we live our lives, right?
Yeah.
But maybe it doesn't matter. Like you said, maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah, who knows? I think there was a I think that it plays. There's a lot that plays into just community in general and communities. So there's something great there, I guess. If you're getting what you need out of your community,
exactly, that's
and
what
you're
I mean.
not harming anybody else, live and let live, so to speak.
If you're doing the good work, that speaks for itself.
Yeah, like my dad, like what do I want to do? Like dissect his philosophy? Like he goes to the pantry every week. He's a good Christian, he gives to the hungry, he donates his time, he does what he does. But we all love each other. So it's great. I'm fortunate, man. I'm grateful as can be to have the family I have. Honestly, it's incredible. I think a lot of people.
The other kernel of wisdom in that song start that you just shared, and it's one that it's a mindset that I'm trying much harder to adopt, is encapsulated in a simple phrase: don't yuck in another person's yum. I don't need to go and tear. And this also goes back to, Mike, what you're saying about tearing down someone's worldview. I no longer go out trying to do that. That's not my mission. If people feel drawn to a message or something that's been said and they show curiosity and they want to learn more, I'm happy to tell them, but I'm not going to slam any of this over anyone's head ever again.
Yeah.
Because there's no point. Some people are perfectly content living the life that they're living. Like, they have their joy, and that's not what might not be where I find it. And I might look at that and go like, that's not, you're going to kill yourself. Like, you're eating. I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that person's story. And if they seem happy and they're content doing what they're doing and living their life, and it's not impacting me or my ability to live my life, like, that's fine. Like, do that. I'm not going to bang my head. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not going to yuck at another person's yum.
It's great.
Yeah. There's different tiers for it. I think that everybody has a different role. Like, I think that's why I fell so down on the Passio rabbit hole, because he is just very to the point. He's very no bullshit. Like, don't waste your time with me if you're going to get offended by anything. And for me at that time, I needed that. Yeah. So it's great to know that there's different tiers and different accessibilities to all of this for everyone. And that's liberating, yeah.
Same is true of I've said that at songwriting workshops before. People say like, well, how do you write a protest song, or how do you know how many to sing, or which ones? Like, well, you need to have different levels of intensity. Like, you can't necessarily come in with organized crime every time, but you have different shades of it. You have There Goes the Weather, where things are a little bit more subtextual. It's like you've got to have tools in your toolbox, and know when the right moment is for the right song is for the right moment. And that's just true of life, not just for songs.
Yeah. That's what's great about songwriting. I think it was just like experiential, like a lot of what Dr. Sell was talking about. It's like experience is really what drives the whole nature of existence. And what more you write about than your experience. So it's like, and what experience do we all have now as one big gigantic world that just experienced, a atrocity, unprecedented crime against all fields of what's supposed to be a system that protects and unites, or whatever kind of BS is its roots are standing on. It certainly did not in the past few years, and we all have that experience, and from that experience, there's certainly a lot of gold to pull from.
Yeah, but it's called the United Nations, Brendan. So, and it's the World Health Organization. Clearly,
Yeah.
they want what's best for us.
We're all in this together.
Yeah. So, all right, Brendan, we are approaching the end of this bad boy of an episode. We're going to ask you the question we ask everybody. You did mention one thing that you do is your non-negotiable. What are your non-negotiables, those daily habits that you do to tend to your terrain?
Oh man, this is such a good question. And I spent so much time thinking about this question. And I think people waste this question. Non-negotiables. I wake up every day. I drive on the right side of the road. I go to the bathroom every day. I go outside every day. I breathe every day. But the daily habits I do to tend to my terrain are also those non-negotiables, are, things I try to do with intention. So like getting up and getting out of bed, I'm going to do that every day. There's not going to be any negotiation that I've never spent one day, the entire day in bed. I be kind to people. I'm not always nice, but I'm kind. I don't go out of like I said, I don't steal the eggs. I don't, I go get my raw milk up the road. I try to buy local. I try to buy local. That's a daily habit. I don't steal the cash box. That's a non-negotiable. Like these non-negotiables are these things we take. We don't think about how incredible, my blood pumps. My heart pumps the blood through my body. That's non-negotiable. That's me being grateful for it. That's a daily habit that I try to do to tend to my terrain. It's the beautiful blend of those. I try to be grateful every day. I love every day. Whether it's my dog or me or my girlfriend. I talk to my girlfriend every day. I talk to somebody every day. There's an inner dialogue going on every day. Other than that, I don't do cocaine. I don't do drugs that I know are going to cause self-destruction. Maybe I could I take big breaks from stuff often. Like, I haven't had a drink since St. Patrick's Day because I just didn't like the way I was last time I drank. It doesn't mean I'm never going to drink again. It just means I didn't like it. So I just withdraw from it. I've never had a moment where I've needed to do that with weed, but I probably should do that with weed just because it's nice sometimes to challenge yourself and to be like, just to do it, just to see, your biological. Just real quick, I loved Dr. Sell when she said, we may be living in the modern world, but our bodies are ancient. I loved that. I just loved that. And being aware of that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I try to be grateful, and I try to just be aware, or as Ram Dass would say, awareness. I just try to be aware of everything, and be grateful for it and love it, and do what I can every day to try and make it a little bit better, a little bit, productive or creative. I'm a creator. We're all creators. So I create every day by right when I get out of bed, and, in my dreams when I'm in it. So
beautiful.
Life is non-negotiable.
Yeah. Brendan, where can the listener learn more about you and your music?
Thanks to the great and powerful Mike Miranda and the amazing Ben Hardy. I have a website. It's www.brendandanielmusic.com. The absolute best way to support me is either probably go to Bandcamp because that's direct and you can buy the music and you can pay as much as you want for it, which is awesome. And to anybody who's done that, and a lot of people have, and it's amazing. Thank you so much for doing that. Or the Patreon. So it's brendandaniel.bandcamp.com, and the Patreon is Brendan Daniel.
I think it's patreon.com/Brendan Daniel.
Patreon.com/Brendan Daniel. Yep. And Brendan Daniel Music on Instagram, and Facebook got hacked, so I don't have a Facebook profile anymore.
Yeah. And folks, the entire Live at Porkfest album is up at Bandcamp. Definitely support Brendan by purchasing that album. And there's a lot of your other music is up there too. All of it, your whole catalog that's building by the day, week, and month. And so I think Bandcamp is just a great indie store where you can really still support living artists.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to listen to it for free, you can go to SoundCloud too, but Bandcamp is the way to support it and listen to it at the same time.
And the shit's all up on Spotify and all the other places too, but Bandcamp actually puts money in artists' pockets, which is not a small thing in this day and age.
Got it.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
Yeah, Brendan Daniel, welcome. Or sorry, let's start that again. Brendan Daniel, thanks for joining us on the Terrain Theory podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Booyah! After party, Pineal Room.
Hi.
Hey.
Crank up the Bob Marley and Sublime.
Crank up the Bob Marley and Sublime. Two of the big influences on Brendan. That was a lot of fun. We should maybe turn this just into a music podcast.
I mean, yeah.
It's fun to have these episodes where we get to listen to a song, and talk to the artist about that song. I could see why people get into music podcasts that have a structure like that.
Totally.
Because every song has a story. I mean, we should do it with the Mammals and every Mike Miranda tune that's ever been written. Just start breaking them down, getting into the story.
Yeah. Maybe that would be a good way to have Ruthie on.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Excellent point. What strikes me about Brendan is that he's a pretty young dude.
Yeah.
And he's wise beyond his years.
Dude has read some books, huh?
He's read some books. We're starting to come across. It's giving me a lot of hope for a next generation. If he was to be included in what we would call like the next generation,
mm-hmm.
It gives me a lot of hope that there's folks out there who've stepped out of the education system, just recognize this does not make any sense, drop out, but is retained the curiosity, or maybe perhaps because they dropped out, they haven't had that natural curiosity driven from them, and he's just devouring, but he's going wherever whatever his curiosity leads him.
Yeah.
His curiosity and his observations of the world around him, his experiences and his observations, and gone, well, that's interesting. And also allowing moments like Porkfest where the universe plops you down and look where that leads him. And I don't know that, and so it gives me great hope that there are folks in this next generation, guys like Brendan and many others, who are living that way and operating that way, and not just going lockstep with what everyone else around them is doing.
Yeah, it's really inspiring. It's great to hear his backstory too, which I didn't know. And I was also sort of struck by a lot of the similarities him and I have, and having lost some people close to us when we were young, and how that really catalyzed not only like the trajectory our lives might take, but like just having that reverence for the fragility of life, and how that like sort of like plants the seed of gratitude, I think, at a really young age, which is something that I've spoken about a lot, and I use as fuel for my fire to this very day.
Has it shaped your perspective on death itself?
In what sense?
I find, well, I think a lot of folks, and part of this is I think a flaw in society, have a hard time talking about death, get uncomfortable talking about death. I don't think we do a great job in our society talking about death. I notice this a lot as I'm raising Grayson, that many of the families in the similar orbits don't teach their kids about death. In fact, hide that and don't like talking about it. And I think that it's something that I've never really shied away from speaking to Grayson about and being truthful if there's an insect or whatever.
Sure.
I just see it as like it's a continuum. It's a natural part of the world around us. And I think that having lost two brothers, and obviously we've had others in our community that we lost that passed at young ages. I don't have a fear of death, and if I were confronted with it, I don't think I would be like consumed by fear, and I don't fear that end whenever it may come. I don't live that way.
And has that been with you since your youth, or is that a more recent arrival?
Honestly, I'd say it was because I never felt myself having to explore it because it was an absence of something.
Yeah.
It wasn't until it was certainly there not long after Josh passed.
Sure. I
just didn't live. I don't have the fear of death. I don't understand it, I guess.
Yeah.
I look at it and not like I'm welcoming it, like, oh, I'm going to, walk towards that faster, but I know it's inevitable. I know that day will come. It doesn't make me afraid at all.
You're at peace with it, and you've been for some time. I think it's more recent for me that I've come to that place, even though similarly, when Josh passed, that's when I got that infinity sign tattooed on my back. Like that was very direct because I was trying to make sense of a friend, being gone, and okay, death, but also infinity. Like, so like, that was my almost like, juvenile way of balancing the scales, even in my sort of like unevolved, more atheistic leaning worldview. I knew that there was like some balancing factor, and it was articulated for me in the infinity sign. But as an adult, more recent years in the rabbit hole spelunking, I've become very, very comfortable with just the like you said, the continuum, the inevitability. As Steve Falconer said in an interview, it's inevitable. We're all going to die. What's tragic when a young person dies is that they just miss out on more time in the fun, because it's a ride to be alive, and it's wonderful.
It is.
But we're all heading to the same place. Absolutely. And I have been able to release the fear around it, which I think I did harbor. And also, to state the obvious, it's like, while we are all heading to the same place, you do miss the people that aren't with you. It's a longing. It's that familiarity. You're going to miss the people that you were comfortable spending time with. And that is just a reality of making sense of the materium. But yeah, fear, I think I can honestly say I've been able to release the fear.
When you start to listen to or watch the near-death experience stories, you start to realize that almost every single person who crosses over finds themselves in a place of absolute love that they don't want to leave. And so when I think of, the Nate and Josh, it's like, well, maybe that's where they are. And that's great.
Yeah.
And that then someday maybe that's where I will go. Like that is the thing. If all you're doing is stepping to a place of absolute love, the likes of which you've never experienced here in the mortal flesh,
right?
That doesn't sound like something to fear. And at the same time, you retain that instinct to survive, to continue your life. And you also recognize, like, you've got people, just like what you said, you've got people around you who would greatly miss you. So it's like, I've got everything to live for, but nothing to fear. It's a cool place to be.
Yeah. It's an interesting paradox too, but it's like what Mitch, the orgone donor, said. It's like, think bigger. It's like, we can't fathom how big consciousness is. And it might be futile to try to actually wrap our heads around it. But just, I think having that trust that it is bigger and more beautiful than we can possibly fathom is very comforting.
It is. And it helps me. I don't know if it does for you. It really helps me navigate my day to day and arrive at a place that I articulated on the podcast, which is if there is this like collective consciousness, if we are all connected in some way, then there's no reason to be opposed to a single person that comes into your life. There's no reason in any given situation to act like the brick wall. Everything is there to teach you, to tell you something about yourself, or to teach you, or something that you've attracted.
Yeah.
It's there for a reason. I don't believe in the coincidences anymore. And therefore there's like you can be welcoming to every single experience that you have, even if that first knee-jerk reaction is how awful. Oh, how bad. Like, woe was me. Poor me, or whatever. Then it's an easy way now to just reframe it and go, what am I supposed to learn from this? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I did this to myself, didn't I? I brought this into myself. And then you laugh. You do exactly what you're doing. You're like, I can chuckle and go, ha, 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 me.
Yeah.
Look what I did. That's a funny practical joke I just played on myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to bring it back to Brendan, I think as you started this conversation off the after party, we're in our mid 40s and that's where we're at, and he's in his 20s, and
that's what I'm saying.
He's already at this space.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, God, if I could have been that way in my mid 20s, how much like misery would I have spared myself?
Yeah.
How much more love could I have spread? I mean, the non-negotiable that I really loved is love. I love every day. That's a non-negotiable. I love every day. And I don't recall a guest who said that as an intention. This is my non-negotiable that I do every day. There might have been a couple that mentioned like loving something in particular, but to actively love, the verb love every day as a non-negotiable, how does that not make you healthier?
And how is that not a testament to the younger generation and like you said, feeling good about it?
Yeah. I want organized crime to blow up. I want it so bad. It's such a great song that, like the hills we die on, just he's hitting everything. He's hitting all the chords. He's
really
hitting
good.
all the chords.
You and Etienne too. Etienne can't stop talking about it. He's like, we're sitting on it's gold mine, not a gold mine, but like it's gonna blow up. It's gonna be huge, you know?
Yeah, and it just comes back to, well, one of the reasons why I really love doing these episodes where we highlight music is because I think music is the medium. Like, this is how you change hearts and minds.
Yeah.
It's not, as I'm learning the hard way, it's like not necessary. It's not by trying to pound truth into somebody. It's not by trying to belittle someone because they believe something that you believed 10 years ago but don't believe anymore, because how could you possibly believe it? You don't get there that way. I don't think the link flow, like, throwing, I don't know, sometimes there's just so much noise and so much content, but music cuts through, or it doesn't. But I think when it does, I think it has the power to cut through more effectively and more people. It can get to more hearts.
Also, so efficiently. Like Brendan was saying, like, I've never written it. Maybe I'll write a book. I don't know. But it's like, think about how much time it takes to write a book. Years. And you spend years writing a book, right? And then think about how long it takes to read a book. It takes certainly days, or me, weeks or months. It's like, books it's a slower process, whereas a song is 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes. And you can sort of absorb a lot of what an entire 300-page book is putting across in a few minutes. Same thing with, I remember my buddy Dan Byrne, one of my favorite songwriters, was saying he was sort of getting burnt out on songs. He's like, I think I want to go to LA and like make films. And then what did he do? He just started making more cinematic songs. He's like, yeah, I could like spend years and millions of dollars making films, or I could just keep doing what I'm doing and get it across in a song. A song is a powerful tool. And I think we don't realize its power, particularly because of its brevity.
It's like the Matrix upload. It's like just getting hooked straight into something, and the combination of what the emotions that the actual music elicits and then the words, it's almost like putting yourself into that theta state where you're more susceptible to the ideas because of the music or the right music.
Yeah. I'm so glad we chose There Goes the Weather, because with a lot of Brendan songs, like, or not a lot of them, but like that Pork Fest stuff, obviously like Hills comes out of the gate swinging, and like if you're like-minded, you're going to be sitting there hanging on every word, especially. But There Goes the Weather's a little bit more understated. It's just a little bit more back and sort of has that beautiful rolling cadence. It's sort of just like pulling on a sweater, and the thread is just coming. It just keeps coming and coming. But it's not necessarily going to like reach out and grab you. But if you can sit with it like we did very intentionally, and then like talk about it a little bit, it was just nice to get deep with that song. That is one of my favorites, but it's subtle. It doesn't hit you over the head. It's nice to honor a subtle song and like really put it in the spotlight like that.
Right. And what is really a breakup song, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he wrote, getting that backstory and that context, you just better understand why the emotion of that tune hits you.
And the backdrop of all the rabbit hole spelunking, and that's woven right into the song. It's like, look, my love, like there's a lot of shit going on in my head right now. Like, I think a lot of us can relate to that. And it's sort of made me a little crazy, and I need to step away and deal and process. And the fact that, to come around and that they're back together, and Annalise is so sweet, and it's a really happy ending. I'm really happy for him. But I didn't know that before today.
Happy beginning.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning for the lad.
Yeah.
Isn't
so
it?
Good. So good. I'm so glad we did that. That was, I wouldn't say long overdue, but we've been talking about it for a while. And, folks, as Brendan said, it's like we've been working behind the scenes trying to get him, get the website built and have a Bandcamp presence and some stuff on Spotify just to have a little bit of a catalog, but it's finally real. And frankly, we were waiting till now to point you, the listener, to those sources to go support him. So they're up, and we really hope you do go help yourself to the music. I think Bandcamp is the best option, because even though it does seem archaic, $10, $20, to have a transaction. I mean, geez, it shouldn't be a novelty to like he said, with the eggs in the cash box. It's like, do you want the eggs? Go put some money in the cash box. Same thing with music. Do you want to have the experience with the music, with someone bearing their soul and their craft, and put some money in the cash box? Because it's not only obviously financially helpful, but at a soul level, knowing that somebody made a financial contribution to your art is very moving on the spiritual plane. There's a transaction that as an artist, I think you really don't take for granted, because especially now when it's essentially optional. So if you opt to financially back someone's emotion, it's no small thing.
And there's a simple fact that if you want to hear more music like that from the artist who moves you, they have to be supported.
Yeah. So Bandcamp is great. Also, we mentioned the Patreon, patreon.com/Brendan Daniel. I think he just has one tier. It's $5 a month. And, it really does add up. It keeps him going, and he's throwing demos and live shows and just sort of behind the scenes stuff up there. The Mammals have a Patreon as well. And it's really helped us get through the last, especially the last few difficult years for being an unessential worker. So thanks to all the people who help in whatever way they're able to.
And by the time this thing goes live, we will have launched our Patreon as well. Yeah. It's patreon.com/Terrain Theory. And folks who decide to join as members will get a little exclusive content, bits and bobs with the guests that won't be out there on the usual free platforms. And we'll find other ways to treat you all to something a little special as you treat and support this endeavor and this mission, and Mike and I.
Yeah, nice segue there.
Yeah. Well, folks, remember that nothing you heard here should be taken as medical advice, as neither Mike nor I are medical experts. Remember that you are light, you are love, and you are your primary healthcare provider. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.